Could you state your first and last name for me?
My name is Richard Williams.
And could you state what branch of the military you were
I was in the infantry. I was drafted right out of high school and went down to Leavenworth, Kansas, and we had to wait there approximately a week for a troop train to take us to Dallas, Texas. And they took us over and we were in Leavenworth in the penitentiary, and the inmates made us hold tomatoes all day. I couldn't figure out why the inmates, and they were kind of hard on us guys, but then I went to Texas for training for the infantry. And all of them were, everybody, they were short men, and they drafted everyone went in the infantry.
Where were you when you heard about the war starting?
I was out in the pasture getting cows in. We milked a lot of cows, and when I come in, my dad said the Japanese attacked in Pearl Harbor. I was 14, I think, or 15, in there someplace, and they said it'd be over before, war would be over before the Japanese would have to give up.
How did you feel once you heard that news of someone bombing our country?
I don't know how I felt. I was, my dad wanted me to help him on the farm, so that's mostly what I heard about.
Mm-hmm. So can you tell me, where did you grow up and what did you do?
I grew up south of Lincoln here on a farm, and my dad didn't want me to go to school. He wanted me to be there strictly for to help him to have somebody work on a farm. That's what he was headed for.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't have been for the state of Nebraska. I don't know if I'd have been able to go to school, but they got a law saying everybody will go to school till 16 years old.
Did you have any siblings on the farm with you?
Yes, I got 2 brothers, 2 sisters. The one brother and 1 sister have passed away. And my one brother's older now, he's still living.
How was basic training? Could you describe what that was like, the training you had to do?
Well, it never bothered me much. I've done a lot of work outside on the farm, so I got along with it. Where a lot of them had trouble is they'd never been outdoors, out of the city. They took a weapon, but it never bothered me much. I ended up being an instructor down there on grenades and mortars.
What kind of weapons did you qualify to shoot in training and in battle?
Well, mortars, mostly, grenades, rifle, BAR, Tommy guns. You're trained to kill. That's what your job is. So that's what we did.
What was one of the first times you went into battle? What was that like for you?
Well, we lit on Leyte. We went across on a ship that had 12,000 men on, and the food was terrible. And so I went down to the kitchen and told them I worked in a restaurant, did a lot of cooking, and I poured it on, and I got a job in there making bread. I remember the first night I was in there, I ate a loaf of bread. The food was terrible. Most of that food would come from Australia, and it was sheep, but 10 years old. Because I worked in that kitchen, I couldn't believe they were feeding that to us guys, but they did.
Yeah. How many invasions did you make?
4.
4 invasions. Could you tell me where they all were at?
Yeah, one was on Leyte and two on Luzon in Japan.
Wow. Is there a one that sticks out to you the most out of all the invasions?
Well, Manila, we lit there about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Lost a lot of men. And they put me in the mountains, and I stayed up there a year. When I come back to Manila, by the Clarkson Air Force Base, there's a cemetery, and there's over 8,000 18-year-old boys in there. We lost a lot of boys.
Did you have any commanding officers, and what were your thoughts of them?
I worked with General Clarkson. He was a good person to work with.
Mm-hmm.
My company commander, no, I never drank, and he keeps himself pretty well lit up, and so he and I didn't get along real good.
Yeah.
But General Clarkson was good to me.
Do you have any? Was there any best friends that you served with in the war?
Most of them lost their lives. The Japs dropped a mortar in on us, killed 5 people right by me, and the guy in front of me took the shrapnel, and otherwise I'd have got it. And it tore his jugular vein out, and he turned to me and said, "Tell my wife I love her, tell my wife I love her, tell my wife I love her," and he fell dead right by me. But at that time, that's the most I ever saw killed at once. 5 of us got killed there. And the Japs shot them mortars. They didn't have any gauge or nut. They had a horseshoe with a pipe and a tube, and they did like this. But they dropped one right in on us one time, and we lost a bunch of men.
Could you tell me what was the country of Japan like after the war? I heard that you got to see, was it Hiroshima?
Yes, I did.
Could you explain that to me?
When I first got in Japan, the first thing I did, I rode a freight train. I had 8 men. I was a staff sergeant then. I rode 8 men, 24 hours a day with C rations, and the railroad track had 8 cars behind that Japanese locomotive, and the tracks went apart about 2 o'clock in the morning and stopped that thing. So they had to wait till the next day till the Japs come and jacked up the cars and put the rails back together so we could go. Well, that night it rained viciously hard, so I went up and got in the caboose of the Japanese train, and they were frying potatoes over that heated, so they could, it was a steam engine, and they only had wood. They didn't have any coal, and they put potatoes over the top of that. And I hadn't had any potatoes, so I traded them in our C ration. You got 4 cigarettes in the morning, 4 at noon, and 4 at night. And I had those cigarettes, and so I give them cigarettes, and so I got to eat some Japanese potatoes, and they tasted pretty good.
Could you tell me what did that background look like? Was there anything left of Hiroshima?
No. Hiroshima is nothing, absolutely nothing. Anything that burned was gone. The only thing that's left is the roofs had these tile that hooked together like that. That was all over the ground. Otherwise, everything, trees and everything, it was nothing. It burnt everything. I mean everything. And that seemed like that was about a mile long from where we went through there. Now, I wouldn't have been in there, but the officers told me I had to do this or that. I don't remember what it was, but that's how come I went through, right through the center of it. And I got cancer afterwards. I don't know if that was the cause of it or not. I don't know. 20 years ago, I had a cancer operation and I existed. I made it. Yet.
I guess my question for you is, when you're in battle, like how loud is that sound? Is it just unbearable when you're in battle?
Well, I don't tell this to everybody, but we had the Japs were having quite a battle up there toward the front. The Air Force come in and helped us. And the B-29s didn't have a gunner in the tail, so that fighter come along with it. And that fighter hit the wings of that B-29 maybe a block away, knocked the wings off of the plane in front. The fighter went up, he bailed out, but that when that hit the ground, that explosion was so heavy that it covered me up halfway with dirt. And it hurt my ears too. It was a terrible explosion. But when it hit that plane just went like that and without a wing, it come down right away. And those guys, but when we got the Air Force, that ruined the Japs because they dropped these phosphorus grenades, and it was like pudding splattered all over, and they'd land on them, and that got rid of most of the Japs. We lost a lot of Japs there, a lot of them.
I guess, is there anything you'd like to say about how war affected history and your lives and the lives of others around you?
Yes, I know how to stop wars. Real easy to stop them. Don't draft anybody until they're 90 years old. It would stop quickly.
And then I guess I got some other fun questions. I guess did you ever get to travel after the war? Like, was there any place you got to travel with, just for fun after the war?
Yeah, successful farming. I tell you, my dad told me he didn't want me on the farm, so I went to work for the railroad, and I saw an ad in the paper. A woman wanted a tenant on a farm, and so I went and talked to her, and she rented me her farm, and I farmed that at night. I worked in the railroad until I got on my feet, and I had the best job of anybody in the United States. I really liked agriculture. That was a good job. A lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Good place to raise your kids.
So is Nebraska where the heart is? Is that what it is?
Yep.
So after the war, did you farming? What was how many years did you farm after the war?
Well, my dad didn't. He wanted my oldest brother to farm the home place, so he told me he didn't want me on the farm anymore. Mm-hmm. So I left, and I started farming with this one woman that let me have her farm, and she lived about 10 years, and she passed away, and I bought that farm. I had pretty good luck farming, and I got a younger son that stayed in it, and I farmed a couple quarters. He's going over 2,000 acres today, and he does a good job.
I guess
I want to ask you a question.
Yep. Ask me a question.
Are you a Christian?
I do believe in God, yes.
You betcha. I think that's what my success comes through that. If you ask the Lord to help you, show your mistakes, and I'm loaded with them, He'll help you. Especially get a good wife, like I got. I got a good wife, and she was good to me. Otherwise, I could have never done what I did. She stuck with me. We moved out on that farm that lady rented to me, and that house was so bad, and one morning I got up, I took the scoop shovel and scooped the snow out of the living room. The doors didn't fit and that, and so I got a lot of plastic and screen doors and got it tightened down a little bit. And we just moved out of a real nice home. This didn't have running water inside or nothing. It was, she put up with it, and it turned out okay, so.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe God was there with you during the war?
You bet he was. Otherwise, I'd have never been alive. Why that boy was standing, I don't know him, standing in front and took that shrapnel, that would have been my name. Because when after a year, I'd come off the front line, back there by Clarkson Air Force Base, there's a cemetery, 8,000 18-year-old boys in there mostly, 18. There were a few older men, but most of them were 18-year-old. All young boys. Boy, that's in today, in my family, there's 4 girls that never got married, and they wanted to get married, but there's no boys.
Right.
We killed a lot of boys. You know, and they like Marines. I work with Marines a lot. The Marines lost a lot of men. A lot of some of those officers were so hard on them.
Did you ever write home and to who?
Yeah, all the time.
To your wife, or?
No. I wasn't going with her then, but yeah, and all our mail was read, and you didn't dare seal anything. They read your mail, so you weren't writing what they thought was the wrong thing to write.
Oh, the secrets.
Secret, yeah.
Oh yeah. Was there anything? Did you get to take anything home with you after the war?
Yeah, I did, but when I come back from Japan, I went out for chow one day, and somebody cut my buffalo bag open and took everything out of there they want, so I lost a lot of it. I had a cup that I ate a lot of meals out of, and I tapped in, I think there's 12 different towns that we took.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted that cup, but somebody else got it.
Were you were you ever wounded during the war? No, ever wounded. And I think you mentioned this already, but what rank did you get up to?
I was a staff sergeant.
Staff sergeant.
And I wouldn't have been that if it wouldn't have been for that general.
Yeah.
He was good to me. The Japs knocked down a bridge, and he wanted me to bring eight or 10 men up, and I did. And we put dynamite on all over the side of that hill, boxes, something like this. And they tied them all together and went around the other side of the hill and blew that off, and it loosened that dirt. And they brought a brand new cat up, and they tried to fill that canyon up there where the bridge was knocked out, so we get the wounded out of there. And that cat started to slide, there it went clear to the bottom of the creek. And General Clarkson said, bring up another cat. And we carried dynamite all over that hill again and blew that hill up again. Now we had plenty of dirt and pushed it, and we could get across there. That took pretty near all day.
Mm-hmm. So just make sure, how many years were you in the war for? I just want to make sure.
2.5 years.
2.5. Was that from 43 to 44, I presume?
44.
Okay. And just so I have these right when I'm putting this together, can you name off the battles you were in, just so I can get these right?
Well, Manila, on Luzon, and Baguio, up Canyon Road up into Baguio. I saw a lot of a lot of fighting in there.
I guess my final questions are: is there anything you'd like to say to future generations about the historic events that you got to live through? And
Yeah, I love America. I think these people that make fun of the flag and fun of the people that stand up for what is right. If they don't like it, go to another country. We got a good country. Don't ruin it. Don't give everybody everything. And that welfare, I believe we've gone too far on welfare. I don't want to work, I'm going to figure out a way that I'm going to make a living, but that ain't right. It isn't right. We all should. I was 29 days in the vet's hospital. A partner didn't live there. They put me on full disability, and I told them I wouldn't take it. I said, I'm gonna make my own living. So I never did take it, but I was put on full disability, but I never did take it.
mhm. I guess to finish up this interview, what I've been hearing, some of these stories you've been telling me, and just, how damn hard you worked your whole life farming. I mean, that is just the golden age of America. The stories I'm hearing of you and your fellow veterans, those are those are the stories I love to hear about hardworking, these hardworking men and women that came up from farms of Nebraska. They went across the world. They fought for their country. They came back as heroes. I mean, these are the stories that I love to hear, and I'm very happy you sat down with me today, and you told me about some of your experiences of World War II. And
I think what it really helped me is tithe your income. 10% is the Lord. 10% goes into savings. Now you can take the 80% and go have fun, but be sure you tithe your income. And it was tough when I didn't have it to give, but I still tithe it, and I know the Lord helped me a lot. And I thank the Lord every day for that.